G'day Saints fans, it's Jayden here with another edition of our OPPO View, where we sit down and dissect our upcoming matchup. This week it is round 9 against the Hawks down in Tassie, Launceston, Saturday afternoon. Blue Ribbon Cup should be a cracker game, but let's have a look and see what worked well for the Hawks last week against the Dogs, and some key matchups that we need to look for in relation to this week's game. So last week, mind you, the Hawks have had a very similar sort of situation to us with injuries to start the year. So they're 2-1 in the last 3 weeks. So slowly turning the form around a little bit, albeit a poor outing against the Swans a fortnight ago, which sort of then created a response that they had against the Dogs last week, where it was high pressure, high intensity for the 4 quarters. And they really brought the heat to the Dogs, creating a lot of intercepts. They were plus 21 in the intercept game, which is a huge number. And they were also plus 13 in tackles for a side that did rank 16, or does, rank 16 in the league for tackles. So that just sort of gave you an indication as to what they were going to bring that week. And I think it's going to continue this week. I think they do have the capabilities to bring it for 4 quarters on a consistent basis. They've, had a really good sort of, I think they controlled the game for the majority of the 4 quarters last week against the Dogs, and that'll really give us some confidence to actually bring that against us this week. An area that we can look to exploit, and it's sort of been an area of concern of ours for the first, third of the season now, is the clearance work. They were beaten comprehensively in that area last week. The Dogs were plus 16. So both teams are pretty bad in clearance works. They rank 17th in clearances, so second worst in the comp. And once they start to move the ball, fluently, they get up forward. They've got some older veterans up forward, but some really dependable guys in Jack Gunston and Co, who can really hit the scoreboard. Mitch Lewis as well. So they've got some really good opportunities there up forward. So we really need to limit that for them going forward. Some really key areas that we need to look for. As I said, clearance work's a massive opportunity for us, but also minimizing their forward 50 entries and really making sure that we do get our intercept game going. And then once we do, we can elevate that forward and really get our running machines up and going. Naz was, a lot better last week. Sinclair was probably back to his best. Brad Hill's been solid all year. We get Liam Henry returning this week, and maybe even possibly Paddy Dow. So already we can start to see the cavalry is returning, and I thought we noticed the impact of that just in the whole game sort of structure, how it sort of was against North Melbourne. I thought we controlled the game for majority of the parts without the polish of putting it on the scoreboard. Ideally, I think we ended up winning by 38 points. It probably should have been a game that we won by 50, 60, possibly even 70. But that's now on the forward line to really capitalise and make use of those opportunities when they come to get it on the scoreboard. Some players that we looked for last week for the Hawks, Jarminipi had a great game, had 27 disposals, 19 of them uncontested. So really important, as I said earlier, that we shut down the likes of him, Scrimshaw, D'Ambrosio. Those really, they do love to use their half-back line and really use them as a bit of a catapult going forward. So it is important that we continue to shut them down. I thought our defence last week from a whole team structure point was really, really solid. Middle of the ground, Jai Newcomb and Will Day. Will Day had a quiet one last week against the Dogs, only the 12 touches, but he is still coming back from injury. So he's only going to get better. He tore us apart in the first game last year in 2023, where they caused the upset. So look for him to have a shutdown job. And Jai Newcomb, we all know what he can do. He burst onto the scene as a mid-season recruit and hasn't looked back. He's looked fantastic in that lineup and a real solid leader. Jack Hayes was absolutely exceptional last week. And if we continue to do that, then it's going to be a massive focal point. And I always like to mention the rucks. I think the rucks is a really important matchup, regardless of who's playing, because not only do they give the access, within the hitouts, but also just from a clearance perspective, and something that Roe Marshall does really, really well is that he's an extra midfielder on that point. So some key matchups there. I like our chances. I think it's a really good opportunity to get away from Marvel, go down to Tassie as a group and really get some, strong form into the sort of season. Two wins on the trot will only just, continue that going forward. So real opportunity there for us to get the 4 points. And as I said earlier, Liam Henry, Paddy Dow should be back as well. So some really important ins. So make sure you stick with us. Tune in on over the weekend while we do our reviews, and hopefully we get the 4 points down in Tassie. And as always, go Saints.